You know what nobody tells you about building wealth? It doesn't feel like it's working. For years, you're putting money away, watching your balance creep up painfully slowly, and wondering if you're just throwing money into a black hole. But then something shifts. One day you check your account and realize your investments earned more last month than you contributed, and that's when you finally understand. Compound interest doesn't work in a straight line. It works in waves. There are 3 specific breakpoints where your wealth building goes from crawling to sprinting, and if you don't know where they are, you'll probably quit right before the magic happens. This video is for anyone who's tired of feeling like they're running in place financially. Maybe you've been saving for a while, but the numbers still feel small. Or maybe you haven't started yet because the math just doesn't seem worth it. Here's the problem. Most people think wealth grows like climbing stairs. Predictable, steady, one step at a time. That's not how it works. Wealth grows more like a rocket launch. You spend a ton of energy just getting off the ground, then suddenly you break through the atmosphere and everything accelerates. The question is, where are those breakpoints? And how do you make sure you actually reach them? Let's talk about why so many people give up too early. If I asked you how long it takes to save $100,000, you'd probably think, well, if I save $10,000 a year, that's 10 years. Simple math, right? And then you'd assume getting to $500,000 takes 5 times as long, 50 years total. That assumption is exactly why people quit. Because if wealth building actually worked that way, it would be basically hopeless for most of us. But here's what changes everything. When you invest instead of just save, your money starts earning returns. And those returns start earning their own returns. This is compound interest, and it completely breaks the linear model. But even compound interest isn't smooth. It has gears, and at certain breakpoints it shifts into a higher gear. Think of wealth building like pushing a flywheel. At first, every push barely moves it. You're straining, sweating, and it feels like nothing's happening. But each rotation makes the next one slightly easier. And eventually, the flywheel starts spinning on its own momentum. You're still pushing, but now it's almost effortless. The 3 breakpoints I'm about to show you are the moments when that flywheel noticeably changes speed. They're not arbitrary numbers. They're based on the mathematics of compound growth and what actually happens to your financial life at each stage. The first breakpoint happens way sooner than most people realize. The second one is where you start feeling genuine financial security. And the third? That's where your money starts working harder than you do. Let's say you start investing $500 a month in a diversified index fund. That's about $6,000 a year, which is totally doable for a lot of working adults. It's roughly the cost of eating out twice a week or one decent vacation. Assuming a 7% average annual return, which is conservative compared to historical market performance, here's what happens. For the first couple of years, your account grows almost entirely from your own contributions. You're doing all the heavy lifting, but somewhere around year 5 to 7, you hit the first breakpoint. This is when your accumulated returns start generating meaningful returns of their own. Let me show you what I mean. After 5 years of consistent investing, you might have around $35,000 in your account. About $30,000 came from you, and $5,000 is investment growth. Now that $5,000 might not sound life-changing, but here's what matters. That $5,000 is now working alongside your contributions. If it earns 7% next year, that's an extra $350 you didn't have to save. By year 7, you're closer to $50,000 total, with roughly $8,000 to $10,000 coming from returns. And here's the psychological shift that matters. You start to feel the momentum. Your account balance starts jumping by $300, $400, sometimes $500 in a single month. Not just from what you added, but from market gains on what's already there. This is the breakpoint where most people either lock in or give up. If you understand what's happening, that you're building the foundation for exponential growth, you keep going. If you don't, you look at your $50,000 and think, I've been doing this for 7 years, and I'm not even rich yet. And you pull out to buy a car or remodel your kitchen. Don't be that person. This is where the flywheel just started turning on its own. The second breakpoint is where compound interest stops being a concept and starts being something you notice in your actual life. Somewhere around year 12 to 15 of consistent investing, assuming you're still putting in that $500 a month and earning around 7%, you cross $150,000 to $200,000 in total assets. Now we're talking. At $200,000, a 7% annual return means you're earning roughly $14,000 per year just from your investments. That's more than $1,100 a month without doing anything. Let's put that in perspective. The median rent in the US is hovering around $1,400 to $1,500 as of 2026. Your passive investment income is now covering most of your rent, or your car payment, or your grocery bill. You're not financially independent yet, but you've reached a new level of security. If you lost your job, you wouldn't immediately panic. If an emergency came up, you could handle it without going into debt. And if you wanted to take a risk, start a side business, switch careers, go back to school, you'd have a cushion that makes those moves actually possible. Here's the mind shift that happens at this breakpoint. You stop seeing investing as something you should do and start seeing it as the smartest thing you've ever done. Because you can now see the results in your monthly cash flow. That $1,100 a month in passive income, it's real, it's measurable, it's growing every single year. This is also where the math starts getting absurd in your favor. To go from $0 to $100,000, you had to contribute roughly $42,000 of your own money over 7 years. To go from $100,000 to $200,000, you only contribute about $36,000 more over the next 5 to 6 years, but compound growth does most of the work. You're still putting in the same $500 a month, but now your money is doing more of the lifting than you are. That's the breakpoint. That's when you realize this actually works. Now we get to the big one, the breakpoint where your financial life fundamentally changes. Around year 20 to 25 of consistent investing, at $500 per month with 7% returns, you cross $500,000. And depending on market performance, you could hit $600,000 or even $700,000. This is the freedom point. Here's why. At $600,000, a 7% return generates $42,000 per year in passive income. At 8%, you're looking at $48,000. The median household income in the United States, as of 2026, is estimated between $89,000 and $90,000. Your investments are now producing roughly half of what the average American household earns from working full-time. Let me say that again. Half of the median household income generated by your portfolio without you lifting a finger. What does this actually mean for your life? It means you could work part-time and maintain your lifestyle. It means you could take a year off to travel, write a book, or spend time with your kids, and your finances wouldn't collapse. It means you can say no to a bad boss, a toxic job, or a career path that's making you miserable. You're not necessarily retire tomorrow rich, but you have something most people never experience. Options. Real, tangible, life-changing options. And here's the wildest part. From this point forward, the acceleration is almost ridiculous. If you keep contributing that same $500 per month, you could hit $1 million within another 5 to 7 years, and then $1.5 million just a few years after that. Why? Because now you have a massive principle that's compounding on itself. Every percentage point of growth represents tens of thousands of dollars. A good year in the market could add $60,000 or $70,000 to your net worth. That's more than a lot of people earn in salary. This is the breakpoint where you realize you've won. Not in a never work again sense necessarily, but in a my financial future is secure sense. You've built something that can't easily be taken away. You've created a foundation that will keep growing whether you keep working or not. And if you're smart, if you don't inflate your lifestyle or make dumb mistakes, this is the platform that leads to generational wealth, not just for you, but for your kids and beyond. Okay, so those are the 3 breakpoints. But how do you actually get there faster? Let me give you the tactical moves that matter at each stage. Zone 1, years 0 to 7. Build the habit and max out tax advantages. This phase is all about consistency. Automate your contributions so you never have to think about it, and prioritize tax-advantaged accounts. Your 401k up to the company match. That's literally free money. Then a Roth IRA if you're eligible. The tax savings in these early years compound just like your investments do. Also, keep your fees low. Use index funds with expense ratios under 0.2%. Fees matter way more than you think over 20 or 30 years. Zone 2, years 8 to 15. Increase contributions as income grows. By now you've hopefully gotten a few raises or promotions. Don't inflate your lifestyle to match. Inflate your contributions instead. If you can bump from $500 to $700 or even $1,000 a month, you'll hit that $200,000 breakpoint years earlier. This is also when you should rebalance your portfolio annually and make sure you're properly diversified. Stocks, bonds, maybe some international exposure. But avoid the temptation to get fancy. You don't need crypto or meme stocks or day trading. Boring wins in this game. Zone 3, years 16 plus. Protect what you've built and optimize withdrawals. Once you're past $500,000, the focus shifts from growth to preservation and strategy. Make sure you have adequate insurance, life, disability, umbrella liability. If something catastrophic happens, you don't want to wipe out 2 decades of work. Also, start thinking about withdrawal strategy. If you're approaching retirement or financial independence, learn about the 4% rule, Roth conversions, and tax-efficient withdrawal sequencing. This is where working with a fee-only financial planner can actually pay off, because optimizing taxes at this level can save you tens of thousands. I know what some of you are thinking. This all sounds great, but what if the market crashes right when I need the money? What if inflation eats away my returns? What if life throws me a curveball and I have to pull everything out? Fair questions. Let's address them. First, market crashes. If you're investing consistently over 20 or 30 years, crashes actually help you build wealth faster. Why? Because when prices drop, your monthly contributions buy more shares. When the market recovers, and historically it always has, those extra shares become incredibly valuable. The key is, don't panic sell. Crashes are temporary. Your timeline is decades. Perennial wealth plus 1 inch. Second, inflation. This is why we invest in the first place. The stock market has historically outpaced inflation by 4% to 5% per year. If you're earning 7% returns and inflation is 3%, you're still gaining 4% in real purchasing power. Cash in a savings account? That's losing value every single year. Investments? They're growing faster than inflation erodes them. Third, emergencies. This is why you keep 3 to 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account before you start aggressively investing. That's your buffer. If life happens, you tap the emergency fund, not your investment accounts. And if you absolutely must pull from investments early, you can. It's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world either. The key is, treat it as a last resort, not a piggy bank. So here's where we are. You now know the 3 breakpoints where compound interest shifts gears. You know what happens at each one, and you know how to accelerate through them. The only question left is, are you going to start? Or are you going to keep waiting for the perfect time that never comes? Here's the truth. Every month you delay is a month of compound growth you'll never get back. Starting at 25 versus 30 could mean the difference between retiring at 55 or 65. Starting at 30 versus 35 could cost you hundreds of thousands in lifetime returns. The math is brutally simple. Time is the most valuable asset you have in wealth building, not your salary, not your investment picks. Time. If this video helped you finally understand how compound interest actually works, and when it starts working for you, do me a favor. Hit that like button so more people can see this. Subscribe if you want more no BS financial education, and turn on notifications, because I drop a new video every week breaking down the money concepts that actually matter. Your future self will thank you. Let's get to work.